What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Mythic Conversations. I am your host, Jeremy Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer, and I also have the distinct privilege of being the digital marketing manager for Four Horsemen Studios. That means that I help bring you all the great content that you see at sourcehorseman.com, the official website of Four Horsemen Studios. In addition, you can check out my work online if you want to see some of my customs. You can certainly follow me on Instagram. That's at Mythic Customs, all one word. Or you can check out my continually growing outdated website because I haven't had any chance to update it in months now. That is at www.mythiccustoms.com. In addition to those places, you can find me here every Wednesday evening live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for this show, Mythic Conversations, the weekly show where we talk Mythic Legions news, Mythic Legions customizing, Mythic Legions everything. Soon it's going to be Legions everything, because eventually when we get to Cosmic Legions being out, we're certainly going to cover that as well. Some weeks we actually do customs, we do tutorials. Other weeks I just kind of show and tell. And then some weeks like this one, I have a special guest. I bring somebody on because the topic is just something that I want to engage with another Mythic Legions fan. And this week I am bringing back, for the first time ever, a repeat guest. He was my first actual guest on the show, and he has the distinction of being my first repeat guest. Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Lord Steven Biesiada.
Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Mythic Conversations, featuring me.
Featuring Lord Steven. So,
hi, everybody.
The reason I wanted Steven on tonight is not only do I love talking to Steven, whenever Steven and I talk all the time, offline when we're not in front of a camera or doing a podcast, but I do love talking to you, Steven. Whenever I get the chance to do Legions cast, that's always great fun. And the feedback that I certainly get from the community is super fun as well. So when I was thinking about this week's show, we're going to cover Mythic Legions news in a moment. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit about the topic. Because originally I had a different topic in mind tonight. Originally, I was going to talk about my kind of Secrets of the Lamp series of genie type characters and stuff. But then I thought, last week I did a lot of conversation about one of my projects with the gargoyles, doing another week that's largely, kind of looking at just my stuff. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that again. And then I heard you say something on your My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast, obviously kind of joking around, but you essentially said that new Mythic Legions fans don't know how lucky they are and how well they have it. Do you remember saying that?
I do. I don't remember saying it on the last show. Are you a few behind?
I might be.
Yeah.
I know I heard it recently.
But yeah, it is. It recently, yeah, I think I did kind of go off. And
it wasn't the last show. It wasn't the most recent show. Because remember, okay. It was last week when I think I listened to it that I thought about changing it up. So it's not the one that dropped probably this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely remember saying it. And you basically kind of communicated to me that you wanted to do a new show, do a different thing, and you needed a grumpy old man. And I am so honored to know that I was your guy. You're like, Steve's the guy. He's the guy that if I need a grump, I'm calling Steve.
And it wasn't just a grump, but I needed somebody who's been around since the earliest days of the line. Somebody who has seen the growth of the line the way I have. And not for nothing, but somebody who has brought a lot of new fans into the line. You know, I know both you and we're going to joke a lot tonight about all these young whippersnappers and, you know, how they are, they don't know how lucky they are. But the reality is both you and I love new Mythic Legions fans. We love introducing the line. So that underpins everything that we say. But I thought about this topic. I thought about, you know, really looking back at what being a Mythic Legions fan was like back when the line first came out. And then also looking forward. You know, we're halfway through 2021 and they've already given us, the studio's already shown us so much amazing stuff that I think I see so many fans online that are, you know, looking forward to the next thing. Then when's the next release going to be? When are we going to see Evergreen Legion builders? When are you going to announce this? You know, why is the in-stock sale like that? I see all of those, you know, criticisms. And I think, you know what, let's step back for a second and let's look at what we already have coming to us. Because before we know it, some of these waves that have been solicited this year are going to start hitting. And I think that there is going to be just a wealth of amazing figures for us to enjoy.
Agreed. The storm is coming, and we're right now in a calm before the storm, I think. But it's not even a calm because, you know, and we'll get into this later. But man, we're seeing new stuff all the time, and that's not what it was like in the beginning. But I know you don't want to. You want to do some other stuff first. So
let's do news before we jump right into the topic. Yeah. So, obviously, I just mentioned in stock sales. There is another in stock sale this coming Friday. Actually, Chris sent out the promo email today with all of his clues. I love seeing all those clues. I love seeing people guess about what the in stock sale is going to be. I know, Steven, I know you had mentioned on the show the other day that you aren't participating in the in stocks because the stuff that they're offering is stuff that you already have.
Yeah, it's stuff that I already have. Honestly, I'd rather see somebody else get it.
Yep.
And honestly, I don't have the time. It's at the time when it happens. Mm-hmm. I'm at work and it's, you know, just, I always forget about it. and I know, you know, I do end up usually checking them after the fact just because I'm curious what was there.
Yeah.
But you know, I know if you don't get there in the first few minutes, you're not going to get anything anyway. So if I look at the clock and it's 3:30, why bother?
Yeah, it's literally 30 seconds to 2 minutes on the upside, and they're all gone. But you know, complaints aside, some of which are, you know, legitimate concerns or legitimate comments. You know, there is, and I've said this multiple times, not to get too deep into it, but there's reasons for everything that they do. You know, some of the suggestions that people mention, there's reasons why it doesn't make sense. You know, sometimes people make suggestions for how it could be improved, but the reality is there's a lot of people that are enjoying it, and the way that it's being run is something that works for the studio, allows the shipping department to get these things out quickly. And again, I said this last week, I see the orders, hundreds of fans are getting figures every single week. So it is getting in the market, which again, we're going to talk about that shortly, but fun sale this week. So check that out, 3:00 on Friday. And then 3:00 on Saturday is the next sale from Wolf King Customs. So this is something both you and Steven, both myself and you, Steven, that we are both involved with and pretty excited for, right?
Super excited. Love Wolf King. It's your show, so I feel like sometimes you got to hold back a little bit from bragging about Wolf King because you don't want to look like you're just doing a sales pitch all the time. But it's not my show, so I love Wolf King Customs. I love working with them. I love working with you guys, talking to you guys, the friendships I've made. I'm very partial. I think that we do some of the most creative stuff that you see, and not saying the most creative, not to say that other people aren't creative because they certainly are. But I'm really proud of what we have, what we bring to the table. Yeah,
I regularly will see things from the different artists and just kind of just be excited for it. Like, just can't wait to get my hands on it and paint it. Like, whenever Len sends me a box and, it'll have some parts that I'm expecting in it that are my parts. But I'm always excited for what else, what other surprises are in that box that he just kind of peppered in there. Yeah. Because those are some of my favorite things to pull out. And just a lot of times he won't even tell me. He won't even have shown me samples that they're coming, and he just drops them on me. And I'm like, oh, this looks wonderful. So I agree completely. I've said this on the show before. The different styles and the different just kind of likes of the artists involved, I think, make for a really well-rounded offering, a really well-rounded team. And it's a lot of fun. It's just, and like you've said before, they're great people. Len, Emil, yourself, Walter, I love working with all of you. So that is a blast. And what is planned for this coming week is super awesome. There's a couple logistical things I want to talk about, but then I want to show a few pieces actually that you have painted recently that's going to be coming up from this sale.
Cool.
So Saturday, July 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern, wolfkingcustoms.com. That is when the sale happens. One thing that Len did want me to point out is that usually when Wolf King runs a sale, they offer painted parts and unpainted parts. The painted parts are always limited to a certain number because painters like myself and you, Steven, have to do them. And we certainly do have only so many we can realistically do in a time frame. But the unpainted parts are usually not capped. Recently, he started capping some of the bigger pieces, some of the more complex pieces, so he could ensure that he gets stuff out in a timely fashion. This coming sale, everything is limited. There is caps on every single thing. And it's quite frankly because Len doesn't want to work in August.
Yeah.
He's being lazy. He's being lazy. No, in all fairness, Len has taken some vacation time in August. Very, very well deserved. The sales lately have gotten so incredibly successful that it takes a lot of time. When we first started doing it, we said that items will be delivered 4 to 6 weeks after the end of the sale. For the most part, he's hit that window every single time, but it gets harder and harder with the volume of parts that are offered and the volume of pieces that are getting out there into the community. And by the way, thank you to everyone that supports the company and buys those. But that being the case, there are certain delivery schedules Len wants to hit based on the fact that he's not going to be around for some of the month. He did set some limits. So that's one thing he wanted us to tell everybody is that if you're one of those people that waits till the end of the sale to pick up your unpainted parts because you know that there's no cap, this is not the one to do that because there will be a hard cap.
Yeah. Yep. And no painted parts. Did you already say that?
I didn't. There's going to be a handful of painted parts that I'm going to do. But some of the other pieces, painted parts, will be offered in a subsequent sale. That's the plan. I have some parts. I mean, quite honestly, painting some of my stuff, like my gargoyles, my gargoyle heads are going to be offered. Those are a lot easier to paint than some of the like God's Fire stuff that have human faces. Those are so much harder to paint, so much more time consuming. That's why you do those and not me, Steven.
I do those because I'm dumb.
Yeah, because I'm not a sucker. I'm like, no, I want to paint things that I just base it out, dry brush it, shit.
I want to do that sometime too.
I see you paint those heads with all the eye, and I'm just like, God bless you, Steve.
All eyes, multiple parts. Me and Emil are gluttons for punishment.
Better you than me, man. I paint one of them for my own collection, and I'm like, oh, I could not imagine doing quantities of those. But so you're right. There's not going to be a lot of painted parts. If you do want painted pieces, don't feel like you've got to buy unpainted and try to find an artist to paint them. We love when they buy the painted parts from Wolf King because they're painted by Wolf King artists. So those will be offered. But I mentioned my gargoyles will be available. One super cool thing that you and Emil have been working on is these Mud Thump goblins. Tell us a little bit about these characters.
The Mud Thumps, they're just early on, and when me and Emil started talking about things, we were like, we want to do some goblins, and I honestly don't know who came up with the idea, but one of us was like, let's do a goblin family. And the first thing that I remember thinking of is the first goblin I wanted to do was an ogre, which would have been Momo. And you don't have Momo in this picture. There's this graphic you're showing right here, but most people have seen Momo, and he's a big dumb looking ogre. And I wanted an ogre, and I was thinking of the movie Elf. I was thinking of, geez, I can't think of the actor's name. Will Ferrell. He's an elf. He's a human, but he's raised by the elves. He just thinks he's a big elf. That's what Momo is. And then after that, we were like, well, we just let's make these people a family. And I got to credit. Emil came up with almost everything about these goblins, as far as the look of them, the ideas of their characters and stuff. We definitely collaborated on, but all of that. The only one thing I can take credit for is the mullet.
We'll talk about that mullet in a moment. Len just chimed in and said all of the unpainted parts that will be available painted soon by Steven and Chris will have a ribbon on them saying painted part available soon. Those will be sold in a flash sale for painted parts. So giving a little bit more clarity to what we were talking about. So yeah, we see Momo here all the way to the right. That's the first one that you mentioned. And then you guys created these mud thumps. So we have a group kind of chat that we talk about. And I remember when the mud thumps were first being discussed, and I can't remember if it was Len or you, somebody suggested putting a mullet on the goblin. And Emil, being the only non-American, apparently mullets are very funny in America, but that's the kind of humor that doesn't translate outside of our borders, because he thought it was stupid. He was just like, he didn't get the joke. He's like, no one's going to want a goblin with a mullet. And the three of us are like, yes, they will. A goblin with a mullet? Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't know. Did you see Emil on Mythic Mondays yet?
I did.
You did, or didn't, or did?
I did. I saw him, and he talked about this story. Yeah,
and it's great because he recalls this whole thing better than I did, and he's so right. He had that head sculpt done, and this happened in a private chat just between me and him, where he sent me that digital render of that sculpt, and he says, thinking about maybe putting hair on him, what should I do? And I had already thought that a mullet would be funny on one of our things, and right away I was like, give him a mullet. And he argued with me, and then I think it was him was like, hey, we're gonna take this to the group chat and see what they say. And thankfully you guys backed me up.
Of course.
Like I knew you would, because
that's your back.
Yeah. And we kind of browbeat him into doing it.
Yeah, it's funny because we were joking around. I think multiple times we dropped the phrase business in the front, party in the back when we were talking about mullets. And, this is not like a true this is not a business in the front, party in the back mullet. This is not like a Billy Ray Cyrus type mullet. I heard some people refer to it as like the Joe Dirt of goblins.
Yeah.
And it works like that because it's
and I love that.
Yeah, because it's a weird combination of like a mullet mohawk, and a weird combo. But it works so well. It is. I mean, I love things that are kind of over the top and ridiculous. I've said before that I love the goblins because to me they're a combination of Jim Henson and J.R.R. Tolkien. I love the terror of the goblins in Lord of the Rings, but kind of the madcap zaniness of the Muppets. And to me, the goblins of mythos are kind of that combination. And I think the Mud Thumps fit in that environment absolutely perfectly. I've
always looked at the goblins, the Mythic Legions goblins, as kind of the gremlins of of Mythic Legions. And so, and you've mentioned, and you were teasing, I think, at the time, but you're also actually absolutely right about how seriously me and Emil take God's Fire, our God's Fire stories. And I mean, I've written some crazy stuff in those bios. I mean, the judge's mother was a prostitute, and I've just gotten kind of dark in a certain areas. And this is like, if we ever, it'll never happen, but if there was ever a movie about the God's Fire, these goblins would be the comedic relief. They would still cause a threat, and they would still be dangerous because they're basically, we've created them as a crime syndicate. Yeah. But they would be funny every time they're on screen. You would laugh, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring them kind of characters into the fold.
So here we've got the goblin with the mullet that's on the left. Is that Billy?
That's Billy.
Okay,
Billy, cousin. He's a cousin. He's a cousin,
and then the middle goblin, the female, that's Luna, and she's also got a torso that's available for her as well. Emil's original goblin torso will also be offered. I got to tell you, when I first saw Luna, she definitely is female, but it reminded me. Did you ever see the old animated Hobbit special done by Rankin Bass?
Yes. Yep.
It reminded me of that art style, like the goblins from kind of like that. That's what it reminded me of. And it immediately hit like a nostalgic bone. And I just loved Luna.
She would make a good alien too.
And then what do we have? The goblin with the mask. That is it Kooky?
No, that's Loco.
Loco, that's it. Loco.
Yep.
He's crazy.
Yes, he is crazy.
And he comes with the collar, and there's also a pair of feet for the goblins and a handful of weapons, a couple weapons, right?
Yeah, a couple weapons. I'm working on some weapons right now. I don't know if you can see that at all, but kind of and the wash is still wet, so it doesn't look great. But yeah, and then some other, I'm not even through painting these, but just to give you a little bit of a
some like dagger, like short swords.
Yep. And then Loco comes with his collar, and I put a chain on the collar.
Yep.
The chain won't be included, but it's actually a fun thing to do, is to put a chain on that sucker, and so
very cool.
It's fun.
Yeah. Those are awesome. I think people are going to absolutely love building those out. And we've seen a number of custom goblins, custom goblin heads. It's definitely a race that lends itself to incredible variety. I love the idea of just a massive nest of goblins. So I think that these heads that you guys have cooked up, in addition to just being fun additions to the story you guys are creating, they're going to be a wonderful addition to Mythic Legions collections as well.
Yeah, we can't wait to see. I can't. The best part about doing this stuff is seeing this stuff in other people's collections.
Oh yeah.
And so I can't wait to get Mama and Brother out there. There's two more that will.
So there are more. And where can people read the storyline for these characters?
GodsFireSeries.com. All the characters we've done, the Mud Thumps and everybody else, they're all there, and you can read these bios, and hopefully somebody will enjoy them.
Awesome.
I've had a few people say they like them, so that's always fun too.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this on Legions Cast last time, that what I said for those that didn't check that out, and if you didn't check that out, why didn't you check that out? Legions Cast, awesome. But the amount of people that I've not only seen getting the God's Fire parts, but using them as the judge and the believer in the fallen, using them as the characters you guys created, is incredible. Because normally, one of the great things we always say about Mythic Legions is that it's like a sense of white space that you can create kind of whatever you want. And certainly with the custom parts that are even less rigid than the Mythic Legion storyline, you can really do whatever you want with. So the fact that people are sticking to your characters is, I think, a testament to what the two of you have created.
Thank you very much. That's really cool. It makes me feel good.
And there is one other God's Fire character that's going to be coming in this next sale, correct?
Yeah, we're gonna have the fallen soldiers, the angels, the fallen angels. They're gonna be in this series. It's basically an army builder helmet, based, similar to the Fallen's helmet, but no removable mask. And Emil sculpted this thing to look pretty darn tough, and I think people are gonna like this.
So we got a question here. Julie's asking, she says, really great. What inspired you to make these characters, Steven?
The mud thumps, or what do you think she means? Or all of them?
Start with the mud thumps and then expand it into God's Fire.
The mud thumps, I think, is basically just going back to that. We wanted to do goblins for one. Me and Emil just thought it would be fun to do goblins, but what inspired it was definitely, I think, like I said, I was thinking of like the Gremlins style or characters that would be kind of a comic relief to the rest of the story. So,
and for those that don't know, the way that your relationship with Emil typically works is a lot of these characters, you do some sketches, you're a longtime artist. You will sketch out these characters to give Emil, the sculptor, some visual reference for what the character looks like. You'll even write stories. So as he's, creating, he knows what this character is like, what the story is. And then he goes and does the 3D sculpture. And there's a back and forth between you guys where, he's like, hey, do you like it? And you're like, I think it's cool, but put a mullet on it.
Yep. Yeah, we collaborate, and some of these characters have no visual input from me. It's all Emil.
Yep.
And then some of them are characters I thought up, but he did everything visual. Some of them I'm like, here's what I want. This one, like for instance, Barian. I sent him a sketch and said I wanted the crazy barbarian, and this is what he did. So yeah, it's a combination. It's really both of us just kicking stuff around and having fun. Creating this world together.
Yeah, so I've got something right here I'll show. We looked at Momo earlier, right?
Yep.
And so this is your original sketch for Momo, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so this is something, and we actually first showed this off at the holiday special that we did in December, and then now Momo is being made. So this is an example of the sketch art that you will provide to Emil for him to base some of his sculpture decisions off of.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. And he sometimes stays super faithful, like with Momo. I think he did it pretty faithful. I mean, he always adds his touch, and I think he improves upon what I give him almost always. And then sometimes he'll do what I do to him and say, hey, I think it'd be cool if we did this, and he'll add something to it, and it'll make it even better.
Cool. Very cool. Okay, so I think we've covered Wolf King. Limited amount, painted parts coming soon, Saturday, 3:00. We're at 8:00 now, so you cool with continuing to move the conversation forward?
I think we should.
I think we should too. So the early days of Mythic Legions, I can tell you that, that first Kickstarter, I was a backer. I went all in on that first Kickstarter. I know you and I believe Travis went all in together, right? Where you split the parts?
No, and I think that's funny that I wanted to bring this up. That was our plan. That was the plan. It was me and him were like, man, we got to get these figures. How are we going to afford them? Blah, blah, blah.
Because how much was an all in?
Seems like it was about $1,100 or $1,200.
Yeah, I want to say it was about $1,000.
Okay, and well, but there was a time when there was no all in because they hadn't hit their Kickstarter. That all in came at the very end when they gave us that price. And I remember through the whole thing, we had seen these pictures. I remember being at his house in his computer room as he scrolled up through the Kickstarter page, and we looked at every character, and we're like, okay, let's go in on this together. Like, how are we going to do that? We're going to flip a coin, and then I pick a figure, you pick a figure, I pick a figure till they're all gone. And that's what we kind of decided on. So then it's getting close to the end of the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter's funded at this point. It's going to happen. And I'm on vacation in Florida, and I get a text from him, and he's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, can't do it. And I think he's saying I can't do it. Like I'm out. I can't do my half. And I'm like, so what? You can't, we're not going to go half. He goes, no, I can't split it with you. I'm going all in. I can't give up any of these. I can't do it. And I'm like, you son of a gun. So then that made me, and I didn't have the funds to go all in. So I cut a few things out. I cut all the Legion builders. Bad move. Okay. Had I did it, and I thought about this again, and if I knew what was coming, wouldn't have done it this way. But I cut out every lead. There was like you could buy. I think there was a 16 all in for the 16.
Yeah, the original group that was solicited before stretch goals. Then there was the all in that was everything.
Yes. Yep. And I did the original 16, and then I added on most of the other figures, and I made it a little cheaper on myself.
Okay.
I got myself under, I can't remember how much I spent anymore, but so I missed out on a few characters there the first time, and that's how I accidentally missed out on Urzak. I swear I ordered them, but I must not have. And yeah, so now since over the years, I think I've picked up every figure almost that I hadn't. But I remember what's so funny is the figure I was so over the moon about was Clavian.
Really?
I thought that the red skeleton was the coolest thing. I remember telling Travis when we were going to split it, okay, but I want Clavian. And it's just funny now because now I have Clavian, obviously, and I like that figure, but he's not one of my favorites of that line. No. I mean, if you told me
today.
Yeah, I know he's hard to get, and I'm glad I have him. But if someone said I could keep one, he wouldn't be the one.
No. Yeah. No, I completely agree. Who would it be?
Might be Atlas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd still have to go Gorgo.
Gorgo? Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
it wouldn't be.
He was the first one that I saw that I said, I've got to get that. Black Knight, antlers. I was just like, that's the one that I said I have to get. So,
and he was right from the beginning, I think, didn't they? Because when they first showed them, they were at like Toy Nami or something crazy. When the Horsemen first showed Mythic Legions, yeah, that's it. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Yep.
And it seems like his configuration was in there.
So,
or something very similar.
What a lot of people don't realize is Toypocalypse was that was a Four Horsemen Studios private show. So that was something they put on, similar to like a Legions Con, basically. And not even Legions Con, because Legions Con is something that obviously, Joe and myself put on. This was a kind of like a art exhibit specifically for Four Horsemen Studios. And that first series they showed, those figures were when they were supposed to be 3 3/4 inch, but they were 2-ups. So they were about 8 inches. So they were pretty close to what we have today. There's actually a couple of the 2-up pieces in the display case at the studio. And it's funny, you look at them and they look a little oversized because they're 8 inches. Mm-hmm. But those designs were not meant to be characters. In that display, there was Gorgo. There was no faced characters. Eric talked about this. Every character had a helmet because it was meant to be generic. So Gideon Heavensbrand was shown, but not with the face that he came with. He was shown with the bucket helmet. Mm-hmm. Everyone was meant to be generic, but people liked those configurations so much that when they decided to add some story and add characters, he became one of the initial offerings, that Gorgo Aether Blade. So yeah, he was shown from those earliest days. Atlas was not, because the barbarian parts were something they added after the fact.
Yep. I remember that he came later, but I remember those deer horns or those antlers of whatever they are, and thinking, "Wow, that's just wild." I can't.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's neat. So, I remember that as well. Going all in, I went all in plus a handful of extras, and then after the Kickstarter was done, they ended up doing like a pre-order on the website, but it was different because it wasn't even like an open pre-order, order whatever you want. It was like a pre-order for the extra stock they knew they had coming in. It was weird. I don't think that current Mythic Legions fans fully grasp what the community was like back then.
Yeah.
You know,
Different.
I mean, I can tell you with the insider knowledge I have, there were like just over 1,000 people that backed that initial Kickstarter. I can't reveal how many like customers are on the store now, but I can tell you, and this is no surprise to anybody, the interest in the community around this line has grown exponentially since that time. It was a small community back then. So the horsemen, you know, now when they place these orders, they order a fair amount of extras for in-stock sales, for shows, for stuff like that. Back then, you know, remember some of their earlier lines like Seventh Kingdom, I mean, there were still Gothotropolis and Seventh Kingdom figures available in the store when Mythic Legions was being produced. There was a point where you could go on there and get the Queen from Seventh Kingdom. You could buy cases of Timekeepers from Gothotropolis. Cases.
Travis had cases, or
they couldn't get rid of them. So
you just jogged my memory. That's how I picked up the extra figures I couldn't afford to go in on. Was before we even got them, they put them out there where you could do another pre-order.
Yep.
And you could pick them up, and that's what I did.
That's what you did, and I did that as well. But because remember, they were gun shy back then about ordering a ton of stuff to have in stock because they were like, we don't want to get stuck with all this inventory, and they weren't sure how successful it was going to be. They didn't have the track record that Mythic Legions has now, so they did that pre-order, but it was based on extra stock they knew they had coming in. So I remember I actually picked up another all-in. I haven't gotten any of these in hand yet. So now, and that's the first thing I want to talk about is fans today coming in. There's all these figures that have come out already. You can get one in hand. You can, see it. You can play with it to really check the quality. Even if you don't get one yourself, there's tons of reviewers out there, the Dork Lair and everything, that do wonderful reviews, show all kinds of aspects of the figure. Obviously, powerful reviews from Alberto. All these great Mr. Allen in the world of toys. They show the figure so you can get a sense of what they're like. When we backed this and we dropped, I dropped $1,000 on an all-in plus in the Kickstarter, and then another $1,000 plus on the pre-order. I didn't have one of these in hand, and neither did anybody else.
Nope. There was the pre-orders, and then there was silence.
Just silence.
Deafening silence.
For a year and a half.
We got Kickstarter updates through email a lot.
Yeah, we did.
They kept us, we knew where they were, where they were at. And they kept us in the know where production was and all that stuff. But really nothing to really keep your mind occupied and except to really kind of go back to the Kickstarter page and look at those figures.
And I did that all the time. It was like, so I remember being a little kid, and one of my favorite things in the world, Steven, was to get the Sears Wish Book in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You get that Sears Wish Book, and what a good day that was. I'd go right to the action figure section.
Yep.
And look at the Masters of the Universe and the Transformers. And I would go to bed with the Wish Book and just sit there and look at stuff and circle things that I wanted. The whole page was circled, obviously. And the wait for the Kickstarter was almost my collecting equivalent of the Sears Wish Book. I used to go to that Kickstarter page repeatedly and just look at those figures one after another and just imagine how I was going to display them.
Yeah, it was amazing. You can't get your hands on them. You don't know. I mean, you assume because it's the Four Horsemen, you're going to get decent quality, but that honestly, when we ended up getting them, they surpassed what I thought they were even going to be as far as posability and stuff. But yeah, it was amazing. And I remember when they got their first shots of them in packaging, and they sent us an email and they showed us these packages of the figures, and I remember that the photo was taken of the figures kind of laying down. So it was kind of an angle where they were kind of leaning off, and they scared me because, and I remember calling Travis over this. I'm like, their feet look too big. I thought, I mean, we all know 1.0 figures kind of have oversized feet anyways. Thank God, because they stand amazingly. But the way that the picture was taken in my brain, they were even bigger than they're supposed to be, and they looked weird. And I'm like, oh man, I think they're going to be messed up. They're not right. And I was totally wrong. It was just completely the angle of the picture that they were taking. And but I remember that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we had. I'm complaining about stuff that we hadn't even gotten yet, because off a photograph, a grainy photograph of some figures laying there in the pre-packaging sample stage.
So, and that's something I want to touch on is during that wait, I never once felt like I wasn't going to get my figures. The Horsemen were a known commodity. I bought from them for years. Never once was that sketchy kind of Kickstarter. Like, are they going to fulfill this? Am I going to be out this money? But the community and the way that the information was disseminated back then is so different than what we have today. I mean, look, we're on a show right now, a weekly show that we talk Legions every single week. You have a podcast that you regularly do for Legions Cast where you talk about this, and you talk about Mythic Legions on every one of your My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcasts. Yeah. And in addition, now we've got Trevor 1/6 Shooter and Nate Strong doing Mythic Mondays every other Monday on Trevor's Instagram page. You know, there's so much Mythic content out there.
The Cabal didn't exist.
The Cabal didn't exist. I mean, back then, how did you get information? You mentioned the email updates from Kickstarter. Was there any other way you got information?
There might have been a small Facebook group, it seems like, about people who had pre-ordered stuff. Okay. You know, like for Mythic Legions. I don't even know if it exists or if it's a figment of my imagination, but it seems like there was something there that had very little traffic and nobody was really saying anything because there was really nothing to say. But no, I have, other than maybe just some fans batting around some things, I don't remember any other way to get information except, and you know, even okay. So the biggest thing was if the Horsemen were somewhere and maybe Pixel Dan or somebody would do an interview with them, that would be and it'd be all ears because I'm like, talk about Mythic Legions.
Oh yeah, eat that up. I would sit there if on a Saturday afternoon that got posted. You know, they were at Toy Fair and they did a walkthrough with Pixel Dan. Everyone leave me alone. I got to sit here for 90 minutes and watch this interview with Cornboy.
Yep.
I had to do that. Yep. So were you on the forums? Because there was a forum on the old Source Horseman. That's where I got my information. And, you know, that's where I met Zombie 13, actually. So Zombie was there, visionary who tunes in on my show a lot of weeks. That was a good group, was on there, Israel Ramirez. That was a good group. And that was my earliest exposure to the idea of customizing, because in the absence of the actual figures, a lot of those fans were doing what I call digibashes, where they were taking, you know, the photos and tearing them apart in Photoshop or MS Paint or something and making examples of what the figures could look like. And that, in the interim from order to delivery, was my first exposure to maybe we can move these parts around. And I remember, I've said this before, my first pop and swap was popping a Carpathia's head on a Blood Armor body. And that's because someone had done that on the forum. they had done that little swap, and I said, that's what I'm going to do when I get my figures.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the first way I got news. That, and I used to stalk Corn Boy's Facebook. I'm sorry, the New England accent is really coming on strong tonight. And every time I do it, I know it amuses you, so I just laugh to myself.
Yeah, do it more. I love it.
I used to stork. I used to stork Corn Boy's Facebook page just for news. Like, I wasn't friends with him, but I would go to his page just to see if he had posted anything. Because you're right. You mentioned a Facebook group. I don't remember being part of a Facebook group back then. I remember joining some early Facebook groups like the Realm of Mythos. But I feel like that was after the figures had shipped.
It might have been. I mean, sure, that probably was. I could be misremembering that there wasn't anything until the figure shipped. Am I remembering wrong that the trolls, the first two trolls, the forest and the stone troll, went up before we even got 1.0?
I don't think so. I feel like, because those were part of 1.5. Yep. But I feel like 1.5 was solicited. I don't think it was solicited before we had the figures in hand. Or was it? You know what? It might have been.
So I remember them probably at the New Jersey toy show. I remember that. God, I'm trying to see if I remember. Cornboy was sitting there on camera. They were taping him. It was a live stream, and he had Unkin tore apart in all his pieces. And it seems like that is the first time I ever saw one tore apart in all its pieces.
So I just looked on sourcehorseman.com, and some very, very knowledgeable gent who put that information together.
From New England with an accent?
So it actually says that 1.0 was solicited in early 2015, and it said it started shipping out to fans in May 2016. It says that 1.5 was solicited in, I believe I just saw it said March 2016. So if 1.0 started shipping in May and 1.5 was solicited in February 2016, then you are correct that those trolls in that little mini 1.5 wave, which was Unkin, Sir Godfrey, Pixis, and Ilgar, those were solicited before we even had them in hand.
Because I distinctly remember 1.5 actually was they turned that one around pretty quick. And it wasn't long after we had gotten our first order, the big order, that we got those ones extra. And it was like, oh,
not
man.
The trolls, though. The trolls were delayed.
The trolls came later. You're right. Wow, this is fun.
The trolls were delayed because the trolls were resolicited later on with either All Stars or like Covenant of Shadow, because it took longer. So they were like, hey, we'll put them back up for a second round of pre-order. So the first Legions figures I actually had in hand, if you remember, December 2015. So May 2016 is when the figures shipped. December 2015, they sold the test shots.
Oh, yeah, I do. I didn't get any.
And what was funny, if you remember this, they actually put them up for $100 a piece.
I don't remember that. Wow.
They were $100 each, and a handful of people bought them, but a lot of people balked. A lot of people were like, why am I going to pay 3 times the amount for unpainted figures?
Were they black back then?
No, they were the same gray color.
They were okay.
They were the same gray color.
That's what I meant as gray, but I couldn't remember if they were sometimes you see them in crazy colors.
No, they weren't. They weren't the true test shots where they just use whatever plastic anybody has. Side note, I had a friend that collects, someone I know here in Rhode Island that collects crazy Star Wars prototypes and stuff. Yeah. And he had like a hot pink Darth Vader that was totally just the plastic they had, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Just Darth Vader in hot pink. But no, these that were solicited, they were the single color gray. But the fact that, because these were in stock, they were like, hey, we have these ready to go right now. Because I remember, because I bought a couple for myself and my wife bought me a couple for Christmas that year. And they lowered the price because they had them flown in and they priced them at what they thought they should go for. And then, people weren't picking them up. So they were like, okay. So they lowered the price, I believe, to $50. And then they started moving a little bit. But even that, like at $50, 10 of each, only 10 of each of those 1.0 test shots, they did not fly. You could go on there and get them pretty regularly.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But the first figure I opened was a Sir Galeron test shot. So I opened that in December. So I did have that in hand to play around with and at least see the articulation before that 1.5 solicitation.
Nice. First figure you opened when you got your order.
Oh my God. I don't remember.
I remember mine.
I think it honestly might have been Carpathia. I think I might have opened Carpathia in the blood armor just to do that swap first. It was either that or it was Atlas in the Barbarian Builder, so I could do my not Warduke.
Nice.
It was one of those two. Who was yours?
It was either of those.
Either. Who was yours?
Mine was Sir Owain, and the way I remember that so much is Travis got his order shipped, and mine hadn't come yet, so I drove up to his house because I just wanted to see him, and I was like, hey, he had it all in case, and he's like, I'm not going to open any tonight, and I'm like, my order's on his way, I had tracking for it, I go, can I just take one, and I'll replace it when I get mine, and he's like, yeah, so and I remember I took Sir Owain, and came home and played with him. And that was awesome night.
So getting the 1.0 figures in was one of the best memories I have as a toy collector.
Yeah.
Because what happened was I live in Rhode Island. They were shipping out of the factory in New Jersey. I happened to get lucky and be in the first round of packages that shipped out. It's a one-day delivery. When something ships from the warehouse, I get it a day later, typically through FedEx.
Sure.
So the first round they shipped, I was therefore amongst the first people to get these in hand. And I remember getting the tracking number from the studio. I mean, again, this was long before I was working with them. And I called in sick. And I said, I can't come in today. I just sat there waiting for the FedEx truck. It came. I opened everything up. I laid it all out on my counter and I started taking pictures. And I was basically sharing pictures as I opened them in the forum because I was, again, the first person to have them. So I was answering questions and sharing pictures. I opened about half of them. I took a break. I went and got a pizza. And I just sat around eating a large pizza, opening all those figures.
That sounds like the best.
Isn't it? It was
a large pizza and new Mythic Legions figures.
It was so much fun. And just to be able to share that. And it's funny because looking at where I am now, even back then, my first reaction with getting these figures is I wanted to share my enthusiasm for them. I wanted to share my thoughts and just my excitement with other people. And obviously that has permeated my time as a Mythic Legions fan.
For sure. That is so cool. I think if my wife would have went into labor on the day that I got mine, I wouldn't have been at the hospital.
You bring him with you? Just sitting in the waiting room?
I don't want to get him dirty. Hospital, there's a lot of fluids when it comes to childbirth, and I don't really want to taint it's, they say it's beautiful, but it's really gross. So don't let anybody if there's any young guys listening and they say, oh, childbirth is beautiful, it's a mess. All right. Stay away.
Fair enough, Lord. So that's one of the things I think about is being a Mythic Legions collector today. It is such an amazing it's just an amazing.
Well, these kids today have everything.
Well, there's so much information out there, between the podcast and the videos like this and the Cabal. I mean, that welcoming community, that group of fellow fans that help people out with information, with additional figures. I mean, not enough can be said about the quality of the community that's been built. But even outside of that, the Horsemen, partially through working with me and partially through the fact that the line has grown and they now have the ability to spend more time on it, they are so much more open, doing things like when we did the deluxe Legion Builder reveal special recently, Mythic Weekend and Legions Con coming up. They're out there in the community so much more, and they're thinking more about how they can really make the releases of these things an event. And the reality is there are so many more releases. Early on, we said that we backed that Kickstarter and then waited a year and a half to get them in. As we just covered, 1.5 was solicited, but I mean, we would see 1-2 waves a year or whatever. Now we are getting so much more product out there that between the stuff that's hitting, the in-stock sales, stores like Big Bad Toy Store, more retailers, more product in the market, it is an absolutely incredible time to be part of this community.
It is. It's awesome. It's almost sensory overload. I know for somebody who is new that may have just found the line, it's hard because you've got to go. And I talked about this on my own podcast, probably a little bit more colorfully than I will here. But it's almost like you got to do your time. You got to get in on that first pre-order that you can do and do your time and catch those pre-orders along the way. And then it starts flowing like water because you're getting things every few months.
And I want to cover that in a minute because we're going to look at some of the stuff that's going to be hitting soon.
Yeah. And unfortunately, if this is your first Mythic Conversations and you found the line yesterday, you're going to have to do your time before you can get that floodgate open. But we all did it, and it was harder in my day, to be that grumpy old man that we set out to do here, and so. So, buck up, do it, and we'll all be happy.
It's funny that we're supposed to be grumpy old men, and there was a point a little while ago where I said the words Sears Wish Book, and we both went,
yes.
Like, so excited.
I love the Sears Wish Book. It was so great.
Side note, a couple people talking about my story about eating a large pizza, and says, new tradition: when you get new mythics in, you get a large pizza and open them and post pics. So I was just thinking, you've heard of Mystic Pizza, right?
Oh yeah, the movie, and it's actually a location. It's not too far from me in Mystic, Connecticut. I'm totally going to rip off that logo and make Mythic Pizza. Yeah,
and I'm saying it here on my show so I can take this idea and no one can steal it from me. Mythic Pizza, that logo's coming.
Oh, that sounds awesome. What's better? What could be better in life than pizza and open up Mythic Legions?
Not a lot, Steven.
No.
Maybe, how about this? The only thing better than getting a new case of Mythic Legions in and getting a large pizza is having a friend like you, Steven, over, and we get both of our cases and 2 large pizzas, and we get to open them together.
That'd be better.
That would be better.
That would be better.
I like that.
Let's do that sometime.
Love it. So I want to look forward a little bit. We've talked a lot about the past, and I mean, you and I can honestly, we could just keep reminiscing about this stuff, and it's incredibly fun to do. But looking forward a little bit, I was thinking about the fact that like I said earlier, we're halfway through 2021, and they've already given us so much cool stuff to look forward to. Before tonight's show, Steven, I went ahead and I took a stock of an inventory of what has been solicited but not yet delivered. Because remember, there's a little bit of a glut now. And I mean, not a glut, a little bit of a quiet time right now. And the quiet time that we have right now is nothing like the quiet times of before. In-stock sales happen every week. Hundreds of people are getting those figures. All-Stars 3 and Aether, those figures are not fully out in the market yet. You know, that's one of the big differences. Like, I've seen people paying kind of crazy prices for Aether figures. Have you?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
That's impatience. Yep. Because those figures, there's more coming. I remember when 1.0 shipped and people were paying $200-$300 for Sir Gideon and Sir Ignatius. That wasn't impatience. There was no more. Yeah. Like, those were ordered in such small numbers that people couldn't get their hands on them. That's why the All-Star wave became a thing, because the Horsemen saw people paying $300 for some of these figures literally within weeks of them shipping.
They saw it. They saw it from a mile away.
If you're going to make fun of every time I have an accent,
you realize I watch you every week and I can't do this to you because I'm not here. I have to do it here. So, when I'm on my walk, I'm imitating you and saying these words, you know, while I'm listening to you through my earbuds. I don't get on the show every week. I got to do it now.
So there was a point where Len, Anthony, and myself wanted to do a My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me recap show, where all we would do is sit there and talk about everything you said wrong.
Yeah, that'd be a full show.
I mean, it would be as long as your show, where we would just kind of say, okay, Travis said this, he was mistaken, this is what he should have said. You could do a recap show of Mythic Conversations where you just translate everything I said into non-New England accent speech.
Yeah. I'm going to do that, I think. I got nothing else better to do.
Anthony's saying that he's going to come up to Mystic, Connecticut to go to Mystic Pizza with me.
Yeah.
So Mystic is about probably about an hour from where I am. So not too bad. It's funny because I've been to Mystic Pizza multiple times. So I'm catching myself doing it now. I've been to that restaurant multiple times, and it's the only time I've ever seen the movie, but they never actually put the audio on. So I've seen the movie probably 10 times, but not together. I've seen just clips of it here and there, but never with any dialogue.
I don't remember the movie. I seen the movie a long time. I saw it a long time ago, but I haven't saw it recently.
Saw it? Okay. So what I was trying to get at was I took an inventory of all of the waves that have been solicited. What's going to start happening is once these things start hitting, we're going to start seeing this constant influx of new figures into our collections, because that's one of the great things. You know, if you notice, they've been doing new releases every other month or so. When those start hitting, it's not going to be like the 6, 8, 12-month gaps between releases. Right now, there are 19 regular figures on the way, 2 ogres plus that ogre accessory pack, 4 deluxe sets. Those are the ones from the video game. 3 steeds, and by steeds, I'm including the centaur in there as well. So we've got the moose, we've got, you know, Alithia's horse Phobos, and we've got the centaur. 1 troll, 2 sets of hands/feet packs, and then 1 set of wings. That's what we have coming, and there's still 6 more months of this year to get through.
Yeah. With more releases coming, I would guess.
That's
not releases. Reveals is what I'm saying.
With the insider information I know, there's a ton more to be excited about that's coming. But even just looking, and I'm gonna share the website. I'm gonna share Source Horseman for a minute there, just to kind of look at some of these things that are coming, because not only are we getting a lot of figures, but the incredible variety of figures that we are getting is absolutely insane. I mean, this Alithia wave, as just absolutely stacked as the Arethyr wave is, I think we're going to get that in the Alithia wave as well. The variety of figures that we have here, the new body parts. I mean, I know that you're not much of like a critter type character, but this character here of Krotos, that new armor that he's wearing, all the new leather type armor that these characters, Valak and Lord Bardrick, are wearing, those are super cool. That from a customizing standpoint, or even just from a variety of display standpoint, those are going to add some really cool new looks.
They're so cool, you know, and I haven't looked at these in a little while, and so seeing them now is just bringing it all back and it making me so excited. I love Krotos. That head sculpt it's just cool. I don't care if you like critters or not. He is amazing. These new body parts, you're right. It's just going to throw so much of a splash of variety into that line.
Even just things like the pauldrons. I mean, right here between Valak and Lord Bardrick, 2 new sets of pauldrons, you know, right there, that's awesome. Plus on Baron Valagar as well.
That's just insane. Baron Valagar 2 is just,
yeah.
I mean,
well, that's why, because of how cool this one is, and I like the original Baron Valagar figure. I think it's an awesome toy. But because of how cool that one is, it made me say, well, what am I going to do with my other Baron Valagar? Because this guy's clearly going to be my go-to for that character. That's why I decided to work with Legion Shop with Strupp Family Crafts to create those vampire robes to make them more into like vampire sentinel type characters. And we have some additional parts that are going to be coming out to Legion Shop for that character as well. But yeah, I mean, again, the variety here, that vampire brute ogre, that all white body, I'm excited for that as well.
That there's, you know, so many opportunities there. Ice creature, or ice ogre. But he just looks so great as he is. I mean, just look at him. Look at that face. I mean,
I know. And that's what's funny, because sometimes when I talk about the customizing potential, I think people may assume that that's all I want. Dude, every one of these is going to be on display in my collection as is, without a doubt.
Yeah. Those vampire wings are sick. I mean, they're the same wings we got for Arethyr, but right? Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
but the coloring, that white.
Yep. Yeah, so we've got with Arethyr, we've got the ones that are kind of multicolored. They've got the yellowish kind of inside the wings. Then we've got the blue ones and the red ones that were actual wing packs in the Arethyr wave. Now we've got these white ones, and Varg comes with a pair as well. I mean, obviously, I just did all those gargoyle type customs. One of the heads that I did, I painted up specifically to use as an alternate for Varg here, because I bought a whole bunch of these guys.
Varg is so cool.
Oh,
he's just a little rat looking bat creature. Just looks like he's evil as heck. Oh.
So, I mean, wonderful line right there. And then going forward, then we've got, after that, we've got the War of the Aether Blades. So these are some figures that I got to tell you, I think these are some sleepers. I think that I saw a lot of people that either weren't into elves or, they bought the male orc because they were like, oh, I've been waiting for a green orc, but whatever. I think that the variety of parts we're going to get from these sets here are going to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, even stuff like I go to this elf builder here, and I love looking at like this piece here, this photo, and, looking at like this head, this head with that yellow hood. That's not a color that we have. We've got a couple different look for the Whisperlings, that green, kind of skin. For people that are into that race, these are some really, really cool parts.
I was not disappointed in these at all. I was nothing but excited when I saw them. Maybe I'm an easy sell, but it's all gold.
I agree. I agree completely. Absolutely love this. This one, I talked about this, I think, on my show last week. I never would have imagined using that Juno head like this, but I love that look.
Oh yeah, the Juno head is great, and then
It is.
just to man, she's a pretty orc with not pointed ears.
And again, I know some people complain that she doesn't have tusks, doesn't have the ears. I'm okay with that because I understand the principle behind it. But I think these are going to be absolutely great additions. I'm super excited to add these and just add the different parts of them into my displays and into my customizing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bring them on.
All-Stars. So I've said before, I mean, I know you are a huge Masters of the Universe fan, so you like the PowerCon. Do you display the PowerCon tributes as the PowerCon tributes?
I put them right now. I have them in the faction that they belongs to.
Okay.
So they're characters within Mythic Legions. I think the Horsemen, maybe I heard somewhere where they said that they would never be like a big part of the story of Mythos because of their tributes. If there was ever some entertainment besides the video game that we know is coming, but I still think it's cool to just have them scattered around where their bios say they belong.
I love that they do them, and I actually dig the fact that they're cool with releasing characters that don't have to be core to the storyline. That they're like, yeah, we'll do these fun tributes. They're great. People love them. I mean, we know they bring a lot of people to the yard. There's a lot of people that, their first figure was a Kronar or whatever, and are Kauros, and that's what gets them to say, oh my goodness, these are wonderful toys.
Sure.
And then they just start picking them up. So absolutely love that. But I don't display the PowerCon figures as PowerCon figures. I'm trying to think if I have any. I do have the Kauros and the Purplor, but I have the helmets that Zombie 13 created. I have the helmets on them. I think those are the only two I have actually in that format.
Yeah.
Even Adamon and Keltis, I don't have intact.
Oh, really?
I don't.
Wow.
I honestly put the normal Keltis head with the green face. I put that on a scaphoid body because I did a whole bunch of scaphoid kind of ghost characters. So I put that head on scaphoid because the purple of his, robe and the green of his face, it's a perfect fit with scaphoid.
Sure.
And then I took the blue skull and the blue bones and I used that to make my ice skeleton.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Very cool.
These, I will say that the Bryophytus tribute here, that's one I probably will keep. I won't use that head. I'll use the other head on it, but that's one I probably will keep intact as is, which you kind of have to because that one's going to be a little limited in its customizing potential because of the flocking.
Agreed. But I have no desire to split them up anyways. I think he's... like you said, I love my Mythic Legions as they come. I really do. All of them.
But this is a good wave here. I think this is, you got a couple skeletons. You've got that Mercurian character in Vetus. People love him. And then you just got that like classic knight character in Sir Owain, who, as you mentioned, was your first opener.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the new forest troll of the trolls, the forest troll is my favorite. What is your favorite of the trolls? Curious.
It's really hard for me. I want to say ice troll because I love snow figures. I love Arctic figures, but that original forest troll with the original head, not this head, which is the ice troll head.
Yep.
I don't know if you can beat that.
That's That's how I feel. That to me looks like that iconic, like, troll under the bridge, Billy Groats Gruff type character. And that's why as soon as I saw that one, absolutely loved that character. Still remains my favorite troll. The ice troll is a close second because, like you, I love any of those snow figures.
And the ice troll's head sculpt, as we're looking at it here as a forest troll, I mean, it's pretty darn amazing.
It totally works. Absolutely works. And then the most recent wave that was solicited, which is just an amazing wave, these deluxe Legion builders. And I mean, this is just top to bottom. It checks off so many different boxes for me. Barbarian, you got a dwarf, you've got that goblin that's got a dwarf buck as well. Brand new skeleton here. That gladiator, obviously you've got the half ogre or the half giant ogre scale character there. And then my favorite in this line is the Dark Templar.
It's hard to pick a favorite here.
Well, I would assume that you like the Barbarian, especially if you swap that bare chest on him.
Yeah, both of the Barbarian and the Gladiator are they're winners for me. I guess I'm most excited about either of those. But I mean, then as you look, your eye bounces around to these and catches different things with each one, and you get your pug goblin and even the skeleton. Look at those.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, the figure I'm most excited for individually in this is that accessory pack. Putting together that accessory pack ogre that Nate Barch designed.
Yeah.
That is the showstopper of this wave for me. But I'm going to put that together, and that's going to stand as is on my shelf. The others I'm excited for, not only from the display potential, but also pulling them apart and using the component pieces for some customs.
The accessory pack is so over the top in a good way.
Yeah.
That it's so fun because it's so over the top.
And yeah, now we look at these, and let's go here because I think this is something that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of. On the website, under About Us, there's a page here called Release Status. Now, this is the same information that is on storehorseman.com, but this should be an updated list of everything that's coming and kind of what the latest information about that is. This was actually a page that when I first was building the website with the Horsemen, that I really advocated for this page. And this is before we decided to, do this on Store Horseman as well, before we did that. I have someone saying the feed went down, but hopefully it's not down for everybody. You can certainly still hear me, right, Steven?
Yeah, as far as I know, we're doing good.
That's
our counters.
It can just be you and me, buddy. We can just talk, and we're all the audience we need.
That's right.
But no, I really wanted this on the site because I wanted people to be able to have clear details on where everything stands. And I also didn't want to announce it. I just wanted, whenever there was an update, I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I just wanted to drop it on there and let people kind of find it. I thought that was a lot of fun. But if you look at this, obviously Erether, the 20th anniversary, Shadow Equidron, those are all finished shipping. So we're going to see, that in-stock sale for Erether at some point. But if we go to those figures that we just looked at, Alithia is estimated shipping Q4 2021. Okay. War of the Aether Blade, that hasn't been announced yet. All Stars 4 is estimated shipping Q3/Q4 2021. Deluxe Legion Builders Q4 2021. So that's a lot of stuff potentially hitting towards the end of this year.
Yeah, I even saw potentially Q3.
All Stars 3 was listed because, so remember what they're trying to do, and this is part of what Chris has talked about, where what he's trying to do with getting them on a really strict schedule. You know, I know people would love it when they would do a pre-order and everyone would say like, oh, I wish you would extend it. I wish you would extend it. And the Horsemen would come out in the 11th hour and say, you know what, we're going to give you another week, another 2 weeks, another couple days, whatever it was, they would extend the pre-order. That has an impact on factory schedules. So that's one of the things Chris has worked really hard on, is really maximizing what's going on at the factory level to minimize the wait between these orders. And what they have said is their goal is that if it is a wave that has no new tooling, like an All-Stars wave, their goal is from end of pre-order till they start getting on the boat to ship to the warehouse, they're looking to try to do 6 months.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it takes about a month to get from the factory to the warehouse. The warehouse has to get it in, they have to inventory it, and then they have to start shipping. But 6 months from order to water, that's pretty darn good.
That's very good.
They said that new waves that have a lot of new tooling, like Alithia, they're hoping to do 12 months on those. Because, you know, back when those Kickstarters were first done, the reason they did Kickstarter was they needed those funds to be able to pay for all of that expensive tooling. Now that they've got a measure of success, they've made it a point to start doing some of the tooling. And they've talked about this on the reveal specials where they're like, yeah, tooling is already underway. You know, the factory in China already has some of these parts and stuff. So they're trying to shorten that window to make it so there is going to be that regular flow. So, yeah, All-Stars 3 was listed as possibly Q3. That was solicited in, what, February? Because I think that we did the voting in January, and I think that the actual sale was in February.
Damn, time flies.
It does. Let's see. I have it on the website. Oh no, it says pre-orders open now. I didn't update that page yet, apparently.
So, and then, you know, another thing to bring up here, we at some point, I think it was Treadaway was asked maybe on your show or one of the places about Cosmic Legions and when that was going to be seen and go up for pre-order. And a lot of people thought that might happen at G-Con or, you know, at Legions Con. And he basically said he was planning on that happening before.
So he wouldn't commit to it on my show. He said, you know, I don't want to commit to anything because things change. And they do. I mean, obviously last year with COVID was crazy. Sure. But the amount of stuff that they talked about doing last year that all got pushed, including those deluxe Legion builders. I mean, we didn't see a lot of new stuff in 2020. There was a lot of stuff that was on the docket that they were planning. So he knows that things change and he's hesitant to commit to that. Corn Boy was a little more definitive when he was on, I think it was when he was on Mr. Allen in the World of Toys. I think it was that one that he was talking about. And I think Allen might have asked him if Cosmic would be end of the year at G-Con, and Corn Boy said, no, it'll be before that.
So look at that. I mean, you know, there's another one coming possibly within, I mean, would it be 5 months out now of Legions Con?
I mean, it's July, so we've got July, August, September, October. Yeah, I mean, 4 months.
4 months. And if it's going to happen before that, let's just hypothetically say it happens in 2 months that we see Cosmic Legions and we do the pre-order. You know, there's boom, there's another thing that's set in motion. And then what if at Legions Con we see another thing set up for pre-order a couple months later? I mean, they could easily get into this every couple of months routine where if people have jumped on the ship and they keep pre-ordering whatever you want or whatever you can afford, you could be literally getting Mythic Legions every couple months.
Yeah, and that's what you were talking about earlier, where you were saying to do your time. And that's what new fans have to understand is the way, and so many people have said this, the way to get into this line is to get in on the pre-orders and wait. And I know you don't want to wait 6, 12 months, whatever, to get any figures, but that's why it's great that there are these other options out there. Like if you can get a figure from an in-stock sale, like if you can join the cabal and, grab a figure. There's always people selling stuff. And a lot of times, don't go after Unkin. Don't go after that $400 Unkin. You know what? Someone who's selling, I saw someone the other day selling like a group of loose, like Legion Builder elves, and they were a great price. Great price to get a variety of figures, a wonderful figure at that. You got a few extras, trade them off or something. There's ways that you can get figures in hand. It is so different than those early days where there was so much less inventory. And at some point there was zero inventory because the figures hadn't been released yet. There's so many opportunities now to start playing around with these things. And then if you get on those pre-orders, there is going to be that point where the dam bursts. And like you just said, every couple months, you're going to start getting in these fresh waves of figures that are going to keep you, I think, really excited.
And then, instead of complaining that there's nothing to buy, you're going to be complaining because that there's too much to buy.
Yeah, and it's funny, though, because I mean, even Eric has said this with like the Advent of Decay Kickstarter, where you had some fans that were like, give me more, give me more, give me more. Every time you hit a stretch goal, they were like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And there were other fans that were like, good Lord, stop. Like, I can't afford any more. Everything you're dropping is amazing. And I can't add any more. And that's realistic. I mean, I hear the conversations. And some of the reasons they make the decisions they make is to keep those all-ins at an affordable price. That we just looked at that deluxe Legion Builder wave. That's $200 for that all-in. That is a great, great price for those 7 figures and that one accessory pack.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. But I do hear people say they're releasing stuff too quickly. And I look at other toy lines out there and I'm like, I feel like they release stuff just as rapidly. I look at the amount of Marvel. I was a longtime Marvel Legends collector. I've kind of completed what I want. I'm not buying a lot of the new I'm not buying any of the new Marvel Legends, but it feels to me like they're constantly dropping new stuff.
Yeah. Other toy lines are going very in similar paces. It's I think there's a difference between putting money down and then waiting for it than walking into a store and picking it off the shelf and buying it. I just think that mentally it's a harder thing to do. You already put your money down, you want your product. I've been in that world for a long time where everything I'm doing now is pretty much pre-order.
Yeah.
Whether it be the Super 7 stuff I buy, the Valiverse stuff I got in on, the Mythic Legion stuff I got in on, that's pretty much my collecting world now. Yep. Other than picking up Masters of the Universe Origins at stores when I can. That's what I'm doing, is pre-ordering stuff and waiting for it. I'm used to it. And I think other people are just, they're not there yet.
Well, Pete, on the podcast, Pete has talked before about how he has a problem with that. He's just not in that pre-order mindset. He wants that immediate gratification of, okay, I paid for it, now I have it.
Yeah, Pete's an impulse guy.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, he impulse eats, he impulse talks, he impulse podcasts, he impulse buys. He's just impulsive.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like it. I get why people would not love the pre-order model, but for me, I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I say this as someone who also collects Mezco.
Yeah.
And Mezco, I've been very, very fortunate. I only collect the Rumble Society stuff, so the original IP. And that stuff, they tend to do not as pre-orders. They tend to do that as like secret drops or very short announcements, and then they drop it. And it's limited numbers, sells out very, very fast. And, you know, lately Mezco seems that with a lot of those, they're doing that and then they're coming back and they're doing like a pre-order or a second run that will ship, you know, 6-9 months down the road or whatever. So more people have access to it. But the level of stress of waiting for that drop and being worried. I mean, you know, I have a vacation coming up, and I'm worried. Mezco just announced that they're going to have another one of their summer Mezco cons. And I'm like, oh, they're going to drop something while I'm away and not able to be in front of a computer. Am I going to have to pay the late tax on that? I compared that to the ease of buying new Mythic Legions. Again, this is not talking about being able to buy, you know, figures from the first wave. This is new Mythic Legions. That ease, I think, is wonderful.
It is. What Mezco does, I think, is cruel on punishment to collectors. But I mean, obviously, a lot of people are liking that because they're doing it. I would much rather do the Mythic Legions thing than have to do that. And I love Mezco stuff too, but you know.
And don't get me wrong, there is as stressful as it is, there's also that sense of when you do get it, like when you get on and you order it and your order goes through, there's that sense of like, I won.
Yeah.
You know, I won the toy game today.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that as well. But I definitely like the pre-order model. And it's actually funny because I sometimes think, and I'm curious what your opinion is on this, and I know we're coming up on 9 o'clock now, but I don't want to go just yet. I'm curious, do you sometimes think that because the Mythic Legions line and the Mythic Legions community and the company are so accessible and so good to the fans that sometimes people expect unrealistic things of Mythic Legions? And specifically what I am thinking of is when I hear people who are coming into the line 6 years in and they're genuinely upset that they can't get some of those early figures at a reasonable price. And they're like, this line is stupid. It's so expensive. And I look at it and I say, well, it's not expensive. I mean, those Legion builders, we just talked about $200 for that all in. I mean, those were $26 figures. Knowing the quality you get and comparing those to some of the other mass market lines out there today, I think it's an incredible value. And I think to myself, what other popular toy line could I get into 6 years down the road and get those earliest figures? None. Yet people seem to expect that of the Mythic Legions line at sometimes.
They did the same thing with Masters of the Universe Classics.
Okay.
It was very rampant with Masters of the Universe Classics. You know, you had figures early on, like Fisto, I'll use as an example. He ramped up in price. My favorite character in Masters of the Universe, I found that line late. Fisto was $200 by the time I got in, and I wanted that character because I loved him. Yeah. I ended up ponying up and buying him for that too. But there was just rampant re-release the new guys, re-release the old ones, and I remember at the time Scott Nylick was running that line as the brand manager, and he just kept saying, we can't go into production for something like that just because there's 50 people that want that figure that didn't get it. We can't do that. It would be too much. They tried doing second runs and they ended up with a bunch of stock. They for a while, there's the figures that have the original burst on them, those ones right there are second run ones that they did for a while, and they ended up with a bunch of stock and they clearanced them all. They knew that wasn't going to work, and people just moaned and whined and whined. And I think it comes from a lot of just not understanding how it works, how long it takes to make, how to take something to the factory, how much it costs to take something to the factory, how big of a run you have to do to make it.
Yeah.
So this is just, I don't think it's specific to Mythic Legions, and I don't think it's a symptom of the Horsemen being so good. I think it's just, there's obviously your entitled people, but then there's also your people who just don't understand how it works, and they want it now, and they expect. Yeah, you can't walk into Myers right now and say, "I want a Mythic or a Marvel Legend figure from 5 years ago." You just can't. Hasbro would laugh at you if you expected Hasbro to provide that to you. And it doesn't make any sense. And I got to mention the price just because, and I'll quit talking. But the price. These have not have they gone up at all?
The only price increase have been from the Kickstarter to retail. So standard figures were $33 during the Kickstarter. Legion builders were $18 on both of them. But both of them, when they went to retail, were $35 and $22. So the standard figures have been $35 throughout.
Okay. So now go to Super 7 and pay for their figures. $55 for a turtle, $55 for a Thundercat. Now with that new Monstar is like 85 or 90.
It's huge though.
Go there.
Gigantic.
It is, but still. So is an ogre. What do we pay for an ogre?
55.
You compare that to in the quality of the paint apps that you're getting with Mythic Legions and just the quality of the parts and all the detail that you're getting. I challenge you. Masters of the Universe Classics, when I started buying them, I think they were $21 a piece. When I quit buying them from Super 7, they were $45. Yep. Now things are $55. Look how things have blown up. But here's Mythic Legions just chugging along at the same old price, giving you the same or better quality than we ever have had.
Yeah, and I don't have, honestly, any Super 7 stuff in my collection. So I like to compare it more to like the Hasbro stuff, because I look that in that same period of time, the cost increases for Star Wars Black Series, for Marvel Legends, and they've made improvements as well. The real scan technology on the faces have certainly improved a lot of them. But I look at those, and those are Marvel Legends are mass market figures. And I think that they're nice for what they are, but I see that price creeping up. And then I look at Legions, again, that $26 for that Legion builder versus what I'm going to pay for a Marvel Legends. And I think it's an incredible value for sure.
I think so too.
Excellent. So anything else that we should cover, you think, before we call this an evening?
No,
we didn't get to many questions tonight. We didn't talk about many of this. I did see one earlier where Curtis asked, and I've heard you talk about this before, but he asked, how does it feel to be able to create some of these custom parts that you're creating for this community? Like, as a toy fan, being able to contribute in the way you are now.
It's the funnest thing I've ever done.
Yep.
When I was little, I remember, daydreaming about stuff like that. Like, what if I had another piece to put on this figure or something? And to think that I've drawn stuff that Emil has translated and then Len has turned into hard resin, and then I get to get it in the mail and paint it, and other people want it too. That's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And one thing we haven't talked about tonight, we talked a little bit about it on, obviously, Legions Cast, Legions Con. So we just did the math. So I'm going to be in Jersey for the better part of a week, because obviously I'm going to be coming in a night. I'm going to be coming in on the Wednesday, because the Thursday is the intern for a day experience Friday is G-Con, and then Saturday and Sunday is Legions Con. Sunday being the big day. Sunday is really the day for all the exhibits. Saturday is the casual kind of, hang out at Toy Con, meet and greet fellow fans type thing. But I just did the math, and I mean, it right now being July 7th, it is just over 4 months before I'm in my car heading to New Jersey. That's incredible.
It is. It's coming up quick, and it's gonna be here before we know it, and then it's gonna be over, and then it's gonna suck.
And I really, as excited as I am for this line, I really think that first Legions Con we did was just such a wonderful experience. And then, even last year with the virtual and how much it grew, I'm so excited for this experience to meet everybody. And it brings me probably to the last question that I really want to talk to you about. It's what kind of an impact has Mythic Legions made on your life?
Oh, well, Mythic Legions has invoked so much creativity in so many people, and I'm one of them. I've said this before, I painted toys before. I used to do G.I. Joes, but I wasn't doing that when Mythic Legions came out. I didn't really do that until right around the time you started this show. And that kind of made, you were doing a lot of painting tutorials, and that kind of made me want to just pick up my paintbrushes and do some things again. But since that happened, I would not be doing what I'm doing with Wolf King, or even just my own customizing or painting for other people. I wouldn't be doing any of that without Mythic Legions. I don't think any other toy line would have stimulated that kind of me wanting to be creative and create things like this one did. And I'm not the only one. I'm not special in that category, because there's a lot of people out there, I think, that are in that same boat. So giving me this creative opportunity, which also forces me, because I'm kind of I can be sort of a recluse. It has forced me to make friends. It has forced me to make relationships. So yeah, it's changed a lot of stuff in my life.
Do you think that, because I know you were doing the podcast before Mythic Legions.
Yeah.
Would you say that the Mythic Legions line has helped your podcast and that whole section of your kind of personal and professional life grow as well?
Yeah, because I think, the podcast is originally, my wife is going to kill me, was never meant to be what it is. There was in the beginning, I had visions of an actual toy podcast where we actually did good facts and gave good information, and we discussed things, and Travis and Pete weren't having that. And let's face it, they brought out the inner
heel Steve.
Yeah, and me too. So that's another story. But I think that Mythic Legions is part of the things that, even though we do all that other stuff and we say all that other stuff, we talk about, we go off the rails, we always go back to the love of toys. That is still there, and it's still present. And I think Mythic Legions is a big time responsible for that grounding.
Yeah, I look at this toy line, and I think back. We started this conversation as part of the conversation talking about those early days and that first Kickstarter. I never ever would have thought that when I was backing that first Kickstarter, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, that I would be where I am today. I had no designs on, becoming a customizer or doing a YouTube show or, creating custom parts, and none of these things, much less being able to work with my toy heroes, Four Horsemen Studios in the fashion that I'm able to. It is amazing what this line has done for me. Not only, you mentioned creativity, bringing out that, giving me a creative outlet that has nothing to do, I've been a web designer for years. So I did design work and I created things, but I was always creating things for other people. This allowed me to create stuff purely for myself. That's been amazing. The people that I've met, people that I never, ever would have met if it were not for this community, yourself included. That's absolutely incredible. And that brings me around to Legions Con, where I tend to be an emotional person to begin with. I've said this before. I cannot watch Avengers Endgame without crying. Like, lately I've been doing this where I like to look up on YouTube audience reaction to like when Cap gets the hammer or says Avengers Assemble. Like, watching, not only because it got to the point where I would cry every time I would see that, but I needed to hit it even harder. So watching live audience reactions on opening night to those scenes, it gets me every time. So I'm an emotional person, and I really do think that the overwhelming sense of community and camaraderie that we're going to see at Legions Con is going to overwhelm me. It might not be on the show floor. I might not break down on the show floor. I might do it privately in my hotel room that we're all sharing, apparently. But I do feel like I will shed a tear that weekend.
I want to see you cry.
I
want to come up and give you a big old hug.
When I see the three of you, that could be it. That could be it. So Pete's a crier too, right?
Oh, he's an emotional wreck.
Oh God, I hope that we just hug and just both start crying in each other's arms.
I think your voice is cracking right now.
If I hug Pete and he hugs me and we just manly cry into each other's shoulders, that is going to be something special.
That's good.
So with that, Steven, I'm going to thank you for coming back to Mythic Conversations. Thank you for being my grumpy old man companion. And dude, I'm telling you, we got to book this now. I want to open Mythic Legions with you and a large pizza.
Yeah, me too. I want to do that.
We've got to do that. Quick announcement. I will not be here next week. I'm actually going on vacation. My first actual vacation in like 2 years. So I'm super excited. So I will not be here next Wednesday. I will be back the following Wednesday with hopefully something super, super cool to bring to all of you. So it's not same Mythic time, same Mythic channel, but a week later it will be. Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, wolfkingcustoms.com. Check that out. Certainly check out my friend Steven on Legions Cast, on his podcast. If you want the humor a little more adult, a little saltier, you can also check out the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast. Until next time, thank you all very much for joining. As Curtis says, like the page, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'll see you soon.